It started with silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, just waiting. I moved to this city to forget. New streets. New job. No attachments. The last thing I wanted was someone. Especially not someone like him. There was a little bookstore 2 blocks from my apartment, tucked between a closed-down bakery and a laundromat that always smelled like vanilla. I went there every Friday after work. Not for books, for the quiet. That's where I first saw him. He wasn't the owner. He didn't seem like a customer either. Just a quiet guy behind the register. Tattoos half hidden under rolled sleeves, a pair of round glasses on his nose, and dark eyes that barely looked up when I walked in. But something about him made the silence feel warmer. One rainy Friday, I got caught in a storm without an umbrella. I stood outside the bookstore, drenched, wondering if I should run home or just wait it out. He appeared at the door, holding a black umbrella. Didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me with those unreadable eyes. Jungkook, you'll catch a cold. Y/N, I forgot mine. I tried to smile, awkward in my soaked sweater and clinging hair. He didn't respond. Just walked beside me until we reached the corner. Then, without another word, he handed me the umbrella and walked away. Wait, what's your name? He didn't turn back. The rain swallowed the silence between us. That night, I left the umbrella by my door and stared at it like it held secrets. The next week, I went back to the bookstore. Same time. Same day. Same him. Y/N, I owe you an umbrella. Jungkook, keep it. His voice was low, calm. He didn't look up from the book he was sorting. Do you talk to all your customers like this? Jungkook, only the ones who stand in the rain. I laughed before I could stop myself. He didn't. But when I turned to leave, I felt his eyes follow me for the first time. Over the next few weeks, our conversation stayed short. Small exchanges, glances, accidental smiles. But something unspoken grew. I started reading again. Only because he always asked what I picked. Even if he didn't say much, his curiosity was quiet but constant. Then one evening, I found a book on the counter. No price tag. No receipt. Did someone leave this here? Jungkook, it's for you. I blinked. Why? Jungkook, you said you liked poetry. That one's out of print. So you remembered. He nodded. Just once. Then turned back to the shelf. That night, I read every page like it was a message from him. By the 4th week, I stayed longer. Asked more questions. Do you own this place? Jungkook, no. My friend does. I just help out. What's your real job then? He didn't answer. The next Friday, he wasn't there. No note. No explanation. And I hated how empty the bookstore felt without him. When he returned 3 days later, there was a bruise on his jaw. I didn't ask. But I wanted to. He noticed. Jungkook, I box. Sometimes I lose. Do you lie? Sometimes you do. He looked at me then, really looked. And that was the first time he smiled. Jungkook, maybe. From that night, everything shifted. The bookstore wasn't just a place anymore. It was a rhythm. A ritual. A quiet heartbeat I started to follow. If I keep coming back, will you tell me more about you? Jungkook, if you do. Maybe I'll start waiting. And just like that, the silence between us became something electric. A beginning. The following weeks blurred into something soft. Friday evenings weren't just a routine anymore, they were a countdown. To him. I started recognizing the way his moods changed by how he touched the books. If he was gentle, he'd had a good day. If he stacked too hard, something had gone wrong. And every time I walked through that door, his eyes softened. Even if his mouth didn't move. You don't smile much, do you? Jungkook, I don't have a reason to. Do I count as a reason? He looked at me for a second too long. Jungkook, you might. The air shifted. It always did when he was too honest. One Friday, I found a coffee cup waiting at the edge of the counter. Is that for me? Jungkook, I guessed your order. Thought you'd show up late today. He didn't say it, but his voice sounded like worried. And that did something to me I wasn't ready to admit. Were you waiting? He didn't answer, but his ears turned red. A week later, he wasn't at the register. The shop was empty, the lights dim, but I found the back door half open. I knocked softly. Jungkook? He looked up from a stack of boxes. Sweating. Breathing hard. Are you okay? Jungkook, yeah. Just. Too much to carry. I walked in without asking. You don't have to do everything alone, you know. He paused. Like no one had said that to him before. That night, I helped him close the shop. He let me stand behind the counter for the first time. Jungkook, looks different from back here, huh? Everything looks different when you're beside me. He froze. And so did I. But then, he didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned in. Not enough to kiss me. Just enough to feel the weight of almost. Jungkook, you should go. Do you want me to? Jungkook, no. But I did. Because I knew if I stayed, I'd fall harder. And maybe he wasn't ready to catch me. 2 days passed. No texts. No visits. The bookstore felt like it didn't exist without him inside. Then on a Tuesday, random and uninvited, he showed up at my door. No umbrella. No excuse. Just him. And that look. Jungkook, I thought about you. Too much. And? Jungkook, and now I'm here. He didn't ask to come in. But I let him. We didn't talk much that night. He sat on my couch. Looked around like he was memorizing the space. And when I offered him tea, he smiled softly. Jungkook, you keep Jasmine. Like the bookshop. I remember what you like. He nodded once, took the cup, and looked down. Jungkook, I'm not good at this. Good at what? Jungkook, letting people in. I sat beside him. I'm not asking you to let me in. I'm just asking you not to push me away. He didn't speak again. But when he left, he touched my hand. Brief. Barely there. But it was the first time he touched me on purpose. And that was the beginning of something neither of us could name. Yet, the night started feeling different. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. We never called it anything. Not dating. Not seeing each other. But I hadn't visited the bookstore without speaking to him in over a month. And he hadn't let a week pass without seeing me. That meant something. Even if we didn't name it. One Saturday evening, I invited him over. Not for anything special. Just to exist in the same space for longer than an hour. He sat on the floor while I folded laundry. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jungkook, you fold your socks by color. You're judging me right now, aren't you? Jungkook, a little. He grinned, playful, unguarded. And my heart did something I couldn't control. You smile more when you're here. He looked at me for a second. Then shrugged. Jungkook, you make it easier. There it was again. The silence after honesty. A kind of pause I didn't want to break. Later, while I was washing dishes, I heard him behind me. Jungkook, you hum when you're comfortable. You notice a lot of things I don't. Jungkook, only when they're yours. I turned around too fast. His eyes were closer than I expected. Why do you keep doing that? Jungkook, doing what? Getting close. And then stopping. He didn't look away this time. Jungkook, because I want it too much. My breath caught in my throat. He stepped closer. Close enough that I felt the heat of him. The restraint. The ache. Jungkook, if I kiss you, I won't be able to pretend this is casual anymore. What if I don't want it to be casual? He didn't move. He just looked at me like I was everything he had been trying not to feel. Then, finally, he leaned in. His kiss wasn't soft. It was slow, but certain. Like he had been waiting for this moment longer than he wanted to admit. My hands curled around his shirt. His breath hitched. And just like that, the space between us disappeared. Hours passed like minutes. We talked. We laughed. We touched. No rush. No fear. No promises. Just presence. Later that night, as he was about to leave, I followed him to the door. Do you always disappear after moments like this? Jungkook, only when I don't want to ruin it. Then stay. Let's not ruin it by pretending we're not feeling what we're feeling. He stood there, hand on the doorknob, visibly torn. Then he let go. And stayed. That night, we shared more than silence. We shared weight, memories, pieces of ourselves we hadn't let anyone else hold. He told me about his mother, the bookstore, why he doesn't get close easily. I listened. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to carry some of what haunted him. When the sun started rising, he was still next to me, fully clothed, half asleep, one hand resting gently on my leg like a promise. And I knew. This wasn't just something temporary anymore. The bookstore felt warmer that week. Maybe because he touched every surface I leaned on. Maybe because the silence between us now held memories instead of tension. I visited midweek, unplanned. He looked up the second I walked in, eyes soft. "Jungkook, you're early. I miss the way this place smells." "Jungkook, or the way I do." I smiled. He never said things like that. Not directly. But lately, he was trying. And that meant more than he knew. That day, he handed me a notebook. "Jungkook, I've been writing things I couldn't say out loud." I opened the first page. Blank. "You didn't write anything. Jungkook, I was hoping you'd help me start." I swallowed the lump in my throat. This, us, was becoming something real. Something fragile but fiercely alive. Days passed. Then weeks. We fell into something deeper. More comfortable. More dangerous, too. Because the more you love someone, the more you fear losing them. It happened on a Thursday. I was waiting at the bookstore. But he never showed. No call. No text. I went to his apartment. No answer. My stomach sank. The next morning, a message lit up my screen. "Jungkook, don't come looking for me." I did anyway. I found him by the river we once walked past. He looked like a shadow of himself, hood pulled over, hands in his pockets. "Why did you disappear?" "Jungkook, because I'm scared." "Of what?" "Jungkook, of you. Of how much I want this. Of ruining something that feels too good to be mine." I stepped closer. "Then let me decide if it's worth the risk." "Jungkook, it is. You are. But I've lost people before. When things feel this good, I expect them to vanish. Then stay. Even if it's scary." He didn't say anything. But when I reached for his hand, he held it tight. We walked in silence. Not the kind that waits. The kind that trusts. Weeks later, he handed me the notebook again. This time, there was a sentence inside. "I used to believe some people were meant to be alone. Then you showed up. And now, I'm not so sure." He didn't need to say it, but he did anyway. "Jungkook, I love you." I smiled through a tear. I already knew. That night, we closed the bookstore together. Lights off. Door locked. The quiet wrapped around us like a second skin. And as we walked down the street, side by side, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the start of something rare. Not loud. Not perfect. But real. Because sometimes, the quietest people have the loudest hearts. And his beat for me.